every year people ask so many questions about Operation Smile, and I am always kind of like, well, I can tell you as much as I know, which is only my personal experience, which is also very limited because I've only been on one mission. But I thought it would be a pretty awesome thing to bring to you guys the faces and founders of Operation Smile, because the passion that they put forth puts my passion to shame. So I would like to introduce you to, please give a warm Nerd HQ welcome to Bill and Kathy Magee. Yes, come right over here, honey, all the way down. All the way down, there you go. And don't they look so bright and chipper this morning? Clearly they weren't dancing.
Straight from the East Coast.
Bill and Kathy, I met after I had already kind of discovered Operation Smile, and I started, I mean, I don't know, with the various nonprofit things I was doing, I was like, well, let's just send it to you guys. I didn't know you. I didn't really know anybody from the organization. And then I was contacted, and then all of a sudden, the next thing I know, you showed up at my trailer at Chuck, and you're like, "Hi, we should all probably know each other." And though I was already very passionate about the cause, I was made even more passionate after just talking to them one time. So this is your one time. You'll talk to them again, hopefully once again. But I want you to know these people because I get to do cool stuff like this, and we get to raise money together and dance till fire alarms go off. But they're all over the world, all the time, with doctors and anesthesiologists and nurses and making differences and changing lives. I mean, that's their job. That's what they do. So why? What happened? What was the impetus?
I can tell you, Kath has a different look at it, obviously, than I have. But it was back in 1982. I had gotten a dental and medical degree after 17 years of education. After high school, I finally went into practice. I was a slow learner. And it got to be 1982, and a buddy of mine asked me if I want to go to the Philippines to take care of kids with clefts, which is what I was focused on, was children's reconstructive surgery and plastic surgery. And so I said, sure. Kath has a pediatric nurse background, a couple of master's degrees in human development, clinical social work. And I said, do you want to go? And she said, I'd love to. And we took our 13-year-old daughter, who was the oldest of our 5 children. She was my scrub nurse. And so we went off 12 time zones away. And to be quite honest with you, I never knew what to expect. We landed in the Philippines, totally different smell of a tropical country, got on a bus, saw some shanty homes with 2 women cleaning vegetables in a dirty river, and I thought, oh, that's disgusting. But relatively rapidly after that, we were in a 5-star hotel and drinking rum swizzles in the pool. And so I've often thought, what if it had been that I had seen as a tourist? And I came back and people said, well, what's a developing country like? And I'd say, it's beautiful. Beautiful kids. Every time you put your camera someplace, kids are smiling. But when we traveled 1 hour south of Manila to Naga City, literally 350 kids showed up, and every one of them with a gaping hole in the lip and roof of their mouth, and they couldn't eat or speak an intelligible word. And it was really at that moment in time, having taken care of, after 2 days, just 40 kids, we had to physically turn away over 300 kids. And it was one of the most unbelievable moments I've ever had, because every one of those parents was tugging at your sleeve and begging you to take care of their kid, begging you. And it was just so powerful because it just wasn't right, and there was nobody there who would ever take care of it. The lady who was the head of the hospital said, someday if you can come back 5 or 10 years from now, please come back, because these kids will still be here. They'll just be 5 or 10 years older. And it wasn't with any anger or hostility. It was just the way it was. And I think the final culminating thing was a lady came up to us with her daughter at her side, maybe 8 years old, big hole in her lip. And she said, I have this ripe basket of bananas that I would like to give you. It's the only thing I have to give you. But I want to give it to you to say thank you for trying to take care of my daughter, even though we had turned her daughter away. And we knew the team we were with wasn't going back. This lady had tears coming down her cheeks. Ultimately, we had tears coming down our cheeks. And we knew that there were no plans to come back the next year. And so reason leads to conclusions, emotion leads to action. And it was really at that moment in time that Operation Smile was born. We said, we'll get a group of our friends together. We'll go back, we'll take care of those 250 kids. The world will be wonderful. Our guilt will be gone. We'll go back to the life as usual. And that is exactly how it began. And today, we're in 60 countries. We'll send out 180 missions this year. We have 5,000 medical volunteers taking care of about 250,000 kids now around the world. And I guarantee you, it's an unbelievable moment when this group of 40, 50, 60 people come together and they bond, they become friends, and they're out for a cause that's outside themselves. And it is powerful, and it transforms not only the kids' lives we're taking care of, but our own lives as well. Why don't you give you a rendition of it?
No, I guess I'd add to that. These are all volunteer medical people, but we also have students on all our teams because of our daughter that first time. And I always say, you know, the best thing Operation Smile does is take care of children with facial deformities, right, for free. But the second thing we do is put young people on our teams. And basically, from that moment, really, students have been involved with us. And I'd say there are thousands out there because our students from our country, from California, went out and they taught the Hondurans, and they taught the Africans, and they taught the Middle East. And so now they're all over this world taking care of children. So we have, it got so big that we put conferences together. So in another week, we're at Chapman University, 500 students. That's all we can handle at that university from 27 countries. We'll come together, bond, and then they'll go out and help us take care of these kids. It's unbelievable, really, what young people have done.
You guys are inspiring people. Sorry if we're all going to make you cry at 9 a.m.
Let me just say one thing, too. In that very first trip, there was a 35-year-old man who came in to see us. Now, you don't see a 35-year-old person in the United States with a big hole in his lip. You just don't see it. And his mom brought him in. He had never been to school. He couldn't read, couldn't write. And I took care of him literally under the light of day on a stretcher in a hall with some Novocaine, like you would in a dental office. And 45 minutes later, I brought him back to his mom, and she said, "That's not my son." And so I said, "Of course it's your son." She said, "No, it's not." And so I had a mirror in my pocket, and I took it out, and I gave it to him, and as he looked at it, he began to cry. And I've often thought, what would it be like to go through 35 years of your life to never whistle? What would it be like to go through 35 years of your life and never feel the gentleness of a kiss because someone didn't have 45 minutes for you? There's absolutely no justice in that. And I think it's that simplicity of the fact that you can go to before and after, and that before and after is a metaphor that says involvement can create change. And no matter what it is that you're involved with, whether it's like Zach, who's been such an incredible help, he and David, or yourselves, or whoever, just think of something that you can see with your skill sets and your talents that you can make a significant difference. And I can tell you, it will transform the way you think, the way your family thinks, and what you do in your life.
I think I want to thank Zach. I want to thank him because there's nothing that we ask him that he doesn't say, okay, why not? So one of our people who, president of NBC, she had a child with a cleft. And at 10, we were asked by Billy Bush to go meet him. So we're like, okay, let's sit with this 10-year-old. He laid out his legal pad, and he said, I have all these ideas because I need to help children. And we were like, oh, okay, Henry. And so we asked Zach to join us because Henry's a skier out in Utah, and they've put together this whole celebrities skiing with students on the slopes out there. And it's been incredible. Has nothing to do with anything but fun and, you know, helping more children, but students helping children with him, with celebrities. So that's been an incredible event.
It's been fun, yeah. It's been a
fun.
lot of fun. We get to raise more awareness and raise more money for Op Smile. I mean, I think I'm like kind of like Nerd HQ. I'm just a big believer that if you can bring fun, if you can bring fun with message and you can inspire people while offering them something that's really enjoyable at the same time, I think it just makes it so much more powerful, you know. And especially in, I don't know, in the celebrity world, you know, life's about incentive. Like if you can look at some celebrities who might not know anything about Operation Smile and say, hey, come ski for a weekend and it's on us, and you know, have a good time. And oh, by the way, while you're here, look at this thing that's going on in the world. Look at these people, these children that need so much help. Does that move you? Does that inspire you? Do you want to be a part of helping that? And I mean, without fail, everybody who comes to the ski event, or you know, so many people that come to HQ and do panels and whatnot, everybody walks away touched. They all walk away, you know, feeling something, and so that's kind of fun. Yeah.
I mean, it's not every day that we get a chance to change a life. You know, we give money for certain things, but this is actual changing a life, and those lives need to be changed. We don't think about it here because we do see kids. We just got a call on our way here, a child in, I think, North Carolina that needs our help. We'll do that, but it's so easy for us. We just make contact all over this country. USC is a big help for us, and Shriners. They just fly them out or wherever they are in this country and help these kids. So it's easy for us here, but not in this. We know people make $3 a day. Where are you going? Are you eating? Can you get on a bus? What are you doing? It's unbelievable. And I think for our teams, it's shocking every time they're there. So I don't know. That's why I'm always pushing the students, because we're getting older. Zach,
I'm getting older. I age about 5 years every time we do this event. So does anybody have any questions that I've probably not been able to answer? I saw that hand up first, and then, sir, I'll come over to you after that.
So I was in the dental field for about 16 years, so I've always known about Operation Smile. I got to work with dentists who did a lot with Operation Smile in terms of donations, and met one of the oral surgeons who also worked with Operation Smile and had the opportunity, but unfortunately there was not enough room for everyone from the practice to go. How would someone, and I've been out of the business for 6 years now, so how would someone like me who would want to still do a mission be able to do that?
All you have to do, are you a dentist?
I was an assistant.
A dental assistant. So what you have to do is just go to the website. And on the website, there's a big volunteer platform
OperationSmile.org.
yeah, and there's a platform there. And then just apply there. Now, we probably don't bring dental assistants on the trips. We may, I'm not 100% sure. But there are all sorts of opportunities to volunteer. There's medical records. There's, for the students, for instance, there's student chaperones that we, engage people with. So there's lots of opportunities. We have over 5,000 active students. We have thousands of clubs around the world. So there's a big, big need to, to get involved in that area there. So there's something you can fit into. Yeah. But the squeaky wheel gets the most oil. Yeah. Because there's a lot of people who want to go.
I'll give you my card.
Yeah.
Wink. You, sir.
Firstly, congratulations to you all for doing such great work. But the question I wanted to ask was, are there any areas of the world that you wanted to get to, but challenges of geography or geopolitical instability have sort of stopped you? Like, is there maybe somewhere in the future that if tensions die down in particular areas that you'd like to get into to help more people from other countries, perhaps that you haven't been able to get to yet?
There's, we're in about 60 countries right now, but there's always tension in the world. We're not a political organization, we're not a religious organization, and we've stayed very, very clear of any of those kind of things, because it is amazing. You bring together, we have an average of 7 different countries involved with any one mission, and I have never, ever, ever even heard a discussion of race, religion, culture, never. I think the strongest bonds of friendship get forged in the service of others. Is that you and I may have not anything in common today, but if we work together to help a third person, we'll become friends. And that is exactly what happens. Having said that, we've been in the West Bank. We've been in Gaza. We've been in China, Vietnam. We were the first Americans to go back to Vietnam in '88. And so it's not that we're afraid to go into those environments, but in this day and age, for instance, there's a group that's supposed to go out to Egypt any day now, and we have to make a very difficult decision of whether to keep that as just a local mission or to send international volunteers in there, because there's been some activity around where the site is. So it's a thing that floats day in and day out, and we have a responsibility to make sure our volunteers are safe too. So we'll do what it takes and hopefully make the right decisions.
Yeah, we're always getting, like, we just got a call from Uganda, and we're not in Uganda, but they have 25 kids that they said, we really need your help. So it's nothing that we'd say, well, we're not in Uganda, but we've networked now with AMREF, with the AFRICOM, with the Navy, and we're going to get those kids and we're going to take care of them. We have a doc that's on this Egypt mission, or no, the Congo, and he's going to go up and screen them and make sure they're healthy. See, that's the other thing. If they're so malnourished, we can't even put them under surgery. But let's just flip over to the Middle East then. We're in Jordan. The Jordanians have been unbelievable because we've taken care of the Syrians, the Iraqis, and the Palestinians in Jordan. I was in that Syrian camp just a year and a half ago. Unbelievable, 300,000 people, just like you and me, who have been removed from their country. And so it's the first child that we took care of, Syrian, was a mom and dad who were running across the border, and the father was killed, and the mother delivered right after that with a child with a cleft, and we took care of that child. So we're there for these kids wherever we can network, and now we have a huge networking ability.
But would you guys say then that there's nowhere, geopolitically speaking, there's nowhere that wouldn't receive you? It's more the call of Operation Smile to ensure that your volunteers are always safe.
Exactly. It's our responsibility to do that, and we can't predict the pathology that's in someone's brain today that might want to make a statement. I can say about the Vietnam thing, for instance, at my 25th high school reunion, a buddy of mine who fought in Vietnam came up to me and said, would you consider going to Vietnam? Because he knew General Vesey, who was then the head of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, and they were trying to get the missing in action, the MIAs, back from Vietnam, the soldiers who had died, but their bodies hadn't come back. And I said, sure, we'll be glad to go. But we didn't have diplomatic relations with Vietnam at the time. And so through a variety of things and with General Vesey, we went over in '88 to Vietnam, met all the government officials and everybody. And in February of '89, we took our first mission into there. And within 3 months of that mission, where we took care of about 120 kids, within 3 months, the missing in action started coming back to the United States. That's how powerful a child is, because a child doesn't have a race or religion or culture. Everybody can relate around a child. So I think the power that we've realized is not just the surgery of changing that child's life, but sending a message through that child of love, of concern, of compassion, which all of us have. Every one of us has that within us. It's how do you bring it out? And how do you express it? And how do you not be afraid to say you love somebody? A lot of people they think it's kind of taboo. We can sing it in songs, we can write it in poetry, but to use it in our everyday lives, it gets real touchy at times. But love, by definition, is self-sacrifice. Love is a decision to make somebody else's problem your problem. In the profession that we have the privilege to be in medicine, that's what we do every day. We put our hand on another person's shoulder. We make their problem our problem. It's a great profession. But we just have to learn how to use that moment to amplify it and to make it bigger.
You're gonna make me cry, man. Jeez. Yeah, you.
Hi. I want to thank you guys so much for this. This is a great opportunity. So I had a sister that was born with a cleft. She's 24 now, and she's had amazing medical, care and all that. But what my question is so I'm a surgical tech and have been for a while. And I guess this lovely lady here had already answered the question as far as, how do I get involved? So just go on the website. But I guess what my question is you guys also do the fundraisers for, in LA, I believe. How can a volunteer get involved
October
in that.
2nd, I think it is this year, in LA.
Actually, I think Robin and April are here. So, yeah, they're going to run that event so they can get you in
Just
there.
come up to us afterwards.
Yeah.
I'll give you our cards and introduce
Yeah.
you to them, and they'll be
Yeah.
glad to get your help. You live in LA?
No, in Sacramento.
Sacramento. Go for it, buddy.
Yeah, there's one actually LA and there's one in San Francisco a little bit later.
I think we can safely assume that if anybody wants to volunteer, they'll take you in whatever capacity that they can help, that you can help, and that they need that help. We'll take that help. Yes,
Well, I think
right there.
Hi, thank you guys so much for coming. My friend Nick in Phoenix can't be here, and she had a question for Zach concerning your mission. So she wrote, she knows from experience in going on any kind of mission trip that you always go with the intention of helping someone else, but you end up being totally blessed and having your life changed instead. So can you tell a story about a specific child or a situation where this happened for you?
I mean, really the whole trip, every child. In fact, I would love for, I'll tell my bit of this, and then I would love for you guys to explain the kind of the process of what goes on, because that's a lot of information. I would love for you guys to know like how a whole mission happens. It's super in depth, and also I'd love for you guys to talk about, if time permitting, if you know, just kind of where we at this point in time, where we think clefs are coming from, because that's a big question too, I find, from a lot of people, and there's a lot of, not misinformation, but like, we still don't know entirely, which is the truth. But as far as my mission trip and my experience in Honduras, which is unfortunately the only trip I've been able to go on thus far, and that's just scheduling stuff, and you know, the work schedule of being an actor is just kind of like it's the wind. Like you're like, oh, and here I go over here now, and maybe and you're hoping that you are, right? Or like Yvonne and I were joking about yesterday, you schedule a trip and then you get a job. So I probably just need to schedule more trips. But as far as Honduras was concerned, you know, it's really intense, because it's, first of all, you're going to a developing country. Probably, right? I mean, are there non-developing countries?
No, that's true.
It's pretty much it's all developing countries, and so just going to a developing country, for anyone here who has been to a developing country, that can really rock you. If you're an empathetic person and you're kind of walking the streets and it's very discombobulating. Even though we see infomercials for, you know, Feed the Children or Operation Smile, you see these things all the time, and you go, wow, there are people that are not as blessed as we are. And they don't have the water, they don't have the food, they don't have the resources, they don't have the clothing, they don't have the homes. So we're all aware of it, and especially because of the internet, you know, the world, we all see these things all the time. You can't hide from it. But then when you're there, it's very different. So you walk into a developing country, and you're walking those streets, and you feel it, the smell, like when you went to the Philippines the first time, and the energy and everything, and that kind of hits you. And then double down on that when you go to the hospital, the clinic, the area, the staging area where all of these families are bringing their children, and you see the immense need. And pick one of hundreds, thousands sometimes. I don't know how many, I don't know what the biggest number of kids that have been brought to you at any one of the missions has been, but in Honduras we had, I think we ended up working on about 350 or so, or maybe 300. I don't know. Am I crazy? Something like that. About 300, yeah. With many turned away. That breaks your heart, because they're coming from hours and hours and hours away. They're taking maybe, you know, they've got like a donkey to a bus to a friend of a friend's car. You know, it's this huge trek to bring their sick child. And sometimes it's just one parent, because the other parent's got to be at home taking care of the other kids or working. You know, it's a gnarly thing, and they finally make it there. And if they can, then the screening process. There was one girl, and I can't remember. No, actually, there was one girl. excuse me, she had a bilateral cleft. So more often than not, you see kids with a cleft. Would it be a unilateral? So I'm not the doctor. You'd have a unilateral cleft, which is just one, typically kind of one, just a side, right? And that can either be just through the lip, or it can go through the lip and the palate. But that's what we typically see. And actually in the United States, right, like what they were talking about earlier, we normally only see friends that we grow up with. I had a friend growing up who was born with a cleft as well. But, you know, by the time you meet them, by the time you're friends with them, all you're seeing are the scars. You don't ever actually see kids in the United States that have the gaping hole in their face, which is why I think we kind of get a little desensitized to the need for it, right? But at any rate, they bring this girl to get screened. This family brings, her mother brings this girl in, and she had a bilateral cleft. And so it was on both sides, and it was like a little island almost of just like lip and teeth. But not really even teeth, because the girl, she didn't even have a name. I know. She didn't have a name because they didn't think she was going to live. And I can't even like, woo, hoo, 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 hoo. It's the only way I can get through it. I can't even imagine what that'd be like. I can't even imagine a child in the United States where their parents who love them are so afraid to give them a name because they know that they're going to die. So it's like that stuff. And you go, what do you do? How do we help? What do you do? And that was just one of so many kids. And
Zach, though, I think that it's the turning people away that brings people back. It's wonderful to take care of a kid. It's horrible to turn somebody away.
oh yeah,
And once you turn them away, you know that you have to come back. And that's why we have 5,000 medical volunteers, is because people went into that profession, but for the reason of helping people. And I can tell you, there was a kid named Angel that I met in Nicaragua. He traveled 2 days by boat, by horseback ride, by bus, to meet us in Managua. And I met him and I said, you know, what's it been like for 18 years? He said, I've never been to school, can't read, can't write. He said, I'm one of 7 kids. And as tough as that is, he said, the toughest part is that my father has kissed every one of my brothers and sisters and he's never kissed me. Well, you know, I mean, we took care of him literally under local anesthesia. And when he was recovered, the Minister of Transportation at the time, who actually ran for the president of Nicaragua against Ortega, was a guy named Eduardo Montalegre. And I said, could you get us a helicopter to bring this kid back to his mountain home? And he was able to do that. And about 15 of us piled onto this helicopter and went a couple of 100 miles into the mountains, landed in a village, dust swirling everywhere. And as we landed down, the mayor of the village came over and wanted to know what the commotion was. And I explained to him about Angel. And he said, you know, you've reminded me how I've got to look after the people in my village more than I am right now. And he said, I promise you I'll do that. And he said, Angel, you can stay in my home until you're ready to take the 12 hours by horseback back to your mountain home. And as we were to leave, I said, Angel, what are you going to do when you go home? He said, the first thing I'm going to do is to kiss my father. And, you know, you start to realize the power of something like that. And, you know, but for any of us to put ourselves in that situation would be horrendous. And yet, that simple act of kindness can change that kid's life forever. Now, he may never remember my name, but that doesn't matter, you know, because it's that thing of communicating with the mayor of the village, communicating with the family, communicating with the people in the village, that hopefully makes them rethink where their values are in life and what they should be doing. And I think that that's the power that all of us get out of it.
And I just want to add, because we're all like Zach, you know, we're sitting there in front of these mothers and fathers, and we're like, okay, what are we going to do here? Because, woof, there's 300 we can't touch. So what we've done is train. Over these years, we've been doing it 30 years. So we have docs now in these countries, and we set up centers. So those kids come back, they give them a card, come back to me next week, come back to me in 2 weeks. So we feel better about that, or else we can't take it. Everybody's crying. Mothers are crying. It's just unbelievable because if it's not us, it's not happening. It's just not happening. If it's not people like yourselves out there, it's just not happening. So I really do want to thank you for getting everyone together here. It's unbelievable.
The other thing is, too, is I think you want to establish a movement, if you would, among all the nerds. You know? But, you know, you think of how powerful that is. I mean, you think of how powerful this community is that you have, and who love to communicate, who love to get on it. You know, the Rotary clubs aren't alive anymore. You know, the old organizations that used to come and go once a week and have lunch together, they don't exist hardly anymore. The environment you're in is the environment where people communicate and make change in our world. Can you imagine if everybody who is associated with this kind of thing gave $10, $20? Can you imagine the amount of money that you could raise to change kids' lives? For every $240 we get, statistically, a kid's life can be changed. And that, of course, that doesn't go into the education, the research, et cetera, et cetera. The research has shown for causes of clefts is that B6 folic acid deficiency can do it, smoke can do it when people cook inside their huts. It can be drinking, it can be alcohol, it can be tobacco, genetic. And actually at USC now, they're doing some genetic studies to do it. We're doing prevalence studies. We're trying to match the environment with the cause of clefts and the incidence of clefting. But it's a massive problem. I mean, 1 out of every 500 kids in the Philippines and in Asia probably have it. 1 of every 650 in Latin America. In Africa, it's hard to tell. They say 1 out of every 1,000, 2,000, but that's because they allow the kids to die. So it's hard to take it.
But I mean, we just were in Ghana, and they said, gee, we don't think there are that many kids around. So it was an Italian couple, and really it's up to each individual. And they said, the wife said, no, I'm going to go find these kids. And she went village to village. 800 kids showed up at our screening. They're out there. They just don't have the $1, $2 to get there. So we're trying to provide that. And it's a big campaign we have going on at Chapman. What are the barriers of care? And these kids are raising money to give $2, $3 to these families to get there. So we're on a march, really, Zach, to get these kids. We know they're out there now. We know there's 1 million in China, 1 million in India. Talk about landing in somewhere. I mean, we landed in India. I'm like shocked out of my mind. I have never seen such extreme poverty. People all over the streets. It's unbelievable.
And would you also say that part of the problem too is like what you were touching upon was in a lot of these developing countries. I mean, the communication levels of telecommunication, like trying to even get to these villages to let them know, hey, there are doctors that can help. Like that's a very difficult thing.
Not only that, they don't have the $2 or $3 that it takes to
yeah,
get there. And if they do, then they extract, let's say, a parent from that environment. But who takes care of the other kids, or who does the farming, or who does the harvesting to feed the rest of the family that day? I mean, it's not I wish everybody in the United States could just for a week go into what they call now, they don't call them developing countries anymore, they call them low income resource countries or something like that. But 1/3 of the world only gets 4% of the surgery of the world. So, I mean, it's just non-existent. So if you have a kid that falls out of a mango tree, breaks his arm, he's deformed for the rest of his life. There's nobody there to fix it.
Like this.
So, you know, it's so different. And I think Americans, if they could just travel there and see it, they would never moan and groan again about anything. Man, we have it so blessed. It's crazy how good we have it compared to the rest of the world.
So we've just been in Geneva. Who would ever know we'd go from that trip to the Philippines? Now we're in Geneva pushing Millennium Goals. Why don't you just...
Yeah, well, you were kind of just talking about that, which is... Bill and I were talking about this in Park City last, which is you want to take Operation Smile and kind of turn it up a notch in just surgery in general. Right?
Surgery isn't the surgeon. It's only about 10% of it. Safety in surgery is the anesthesia. It's the monitoring equipment. See, isn't that cool?
No, it's okay. I'm sure it's a president of some country.
So the reality is, it's my niece.
She's probably watching the live stream right now going, don't forget to
ask
say.
a question. So but surgery isn't the surgeon. It's all the other facets of it. So safe surgery is the nurse, it's the equipment, it's the monitoring equipment and stuff like that. So through children, we can elevate all of surgical care. And that's the real thing. And people like yourselves really are the infrastructure that allow that then to happen, because government programs aren't going to do it. Let me just tell you one very quick story here before it ends. But I was in Ethiopia. 1,000 kids showed up in Addis Ababa at the hospital. Hospital there's a 2,000-bed hospital that I swear to you, people come to die. Just cachectic people laying everywhere. You can't find a clean bathroom. You can't find a shower. You can't find anything within. I mean, it's just horrendous. So we go in there, and I meet 3 men. One's 27, one's 17, one's 7. There's 3 of 7 kids in a family whose mother died 2 years before. The father remarried and ostracized the boy that was 17 and the boy that was 7 because they had a cleft lip. And he felt they were a curse on the family. The older brother, the 27-year-old, took him under his wing and brought them in. And I met them. The 7-year-old still had his spirit. He could still look at you and smile. 17-year-old wore a baseball cap pulled over his eyes and a mask over his face. And so I walked up to him and I said, would you shake my hand? And he limply shook my hand. I said, no, squeeze my hand. He squeezed it a little bit tighter. I said, no, really, really squeeze my hand. And finally, after about 30 seconds, he really squeezed my hand. And I said, would you look me in the eyes? And as he looked me in the eyes, his hand went limp again. I said, no, look me in the eyes and squeeze my hand at the same time. And after about 30 seconds, we got that down. I said, I could promise you that tomorrow we'll fix your lip. What I can't promise you is that we can heal your spirit. You've got to do that. So let's make a deal. I'll promise you we'll fix your lip tomorrow if you promise me that you'll start to look at life differently. Think of your cleft lip as your gift. You've been given the gift of a cleft lip, because forever you'll be more sensitive to the needs of people in your village, your community, your world than most people will. So you can use that gift to help other people. So we'll make this deal. We'll fix your lip tomorrow if you promise me that you'll use your gift for the rest of your life to help other people. And every single one of us in this room or people listening, every one of us has a gift. How do we use our gifts to help other people? That's the question that we have to ask ourselves. If we think that way, I guarantee you, your life will be a happier life. And I think that that's the movement that the nerds can, bam, go out there.
Guys, we're the new Rotary Club. Come on.
You are. That's the truth, man.
We're the new Rotary.
You're the ones that are going to change the world. You have that opportunity. You're the ones that communicate day in and day out. I can't do that stuff.
We're gonna have to wrap up here in just a second.
Poor girl over here. I feel bad for her.
Are you dying for a question? Look, one more question. Come on, go ahead.
I would love to. First of all, thank you both so much for what you do, and Zach, thank you for growing this amazing thing into what it is now. We actually talked at New York Comic Con last year, where you had, I think it was the first time Nerd HQ was at New York. Is that
Yeah,
correct?
well, it was a Nerd Outpost.
The Nerd Outpost, right, correct. And actually, my question is, you were just talking about expanding Operation Smile. I was wondering, is there a consideration in the works for expanding further Nerd HQ without obviously losing the kind of, small feel and organic feel of that?
Well, I definitely would love to be able to bring this type of thing to other people in the world. Because I think it's a lot of fun, but also because we get to raise awareness and raise money through that as well, and touch people's lives and inspire people if we can or whatever. It's just very difficult to get this same type of thing at other conventions around the world. Not every convention is created the same. That said, if we can do more outposts, if we can do that kind of stuff, where we can even just do a photo booth, like Smiles for Smiles, because that's what we did in New York, and that was good. That was good. It's just a cost thing. I mean, by the time we came back from New York, from the merch we sold, it was break even. It was like, it's not necessary. It's kind of a little cost prohibitive sometimes, you know? So I don't know. It's a matter of just figuring out how to work that model out so it works and we can go everywhere, man. I'd love, you know, people hit me up all the time. Why don't you come to a convention in Russia? I'd love to go to Russia. I don't know how to do that without losing more money. That's, you know, it's that kind of thing. So
We could do something like that in the Philippines.
I'm sure there's a kick-ass con in the Philippines. There's kick-ass cons everywhere now, right? But listen, in our closing 3, 2, 1 seconds, I just want to say this, and I've said this before, if anybody here, like I said, if anybody here wants any more information about Operation Smile, or anybody watching online, operationsmile.org, or go to the website. You can get all the info you want. You can also volunteer if you feel compelled. If Operation Smile is an organization that when you've looked into it, and you know, if Bill and Kathy have inspired you in any way to do that, or if any of the Operation Smile volunteers that we've had over the years here have inspired you to do that, I implore you, go to the website, check it out, find something that you can do, because again, I'm sure there's tons of things that you could go and volunteer in. But even if it's not, even if Operation Smile is not what you feel like God or the universe or your soul or whatever is saying, that's my thing, that's okay. But find something. Find something that's going to change the world. Find something that's going to help people in a bigger and more amazing way, that is transcendent of you, because we could be dead tomorrow. You have no idea how much time you have left. But there are so many people that are hurting in the world. There are so many people who have the gift of a palate that need to be told, you have this thing, and their spirits are broken. And we need to be there to love on them and to help them to mend that. And so I don't know what that is, but find it. Go, with everything you have, go find that. If it's something with animals, go do that. If it's something with children, go do that. If it's something with veterans or the elderly, go do that. But I guarantee you, it makes your life here and your existence and whatever time we have left far more, not just powerful, but worth it. Because that's the value that we find in our lives, I think, ultimately. So thank you all so much for coming this morning. Really, really, really appreciate it. Bill and Kathy Magee, everybody. Bill and Kelly!